A headline from the front page of the New York Times for every day of January 1932. 6 more bombs discovered in 4 cities. Point to nationwide anti-fascist plot. Government spurs hunt for terrorists. Japan takes Qinzhou, entering on schedule after Chang withdrawal. Cruisers to become little battleships. Navy alters design. Gandhi sent to jail. Party to be banned. All India quits work. Hoover asks speed on relief bills. Congress chiefs pledge quick action. Democrats offer their tariff plan. Raskob urges Democrats to unite on wet problem. Poll is heavily anti-dry. Roosevelt calls for new leadership in nation as he cites states' needs. Message urges emergency tax rise. Stimson insists on rights in Manchuria under 9-Power Treaty and Kellogg Pact. Invites the other signatories to act. Seabury charges Culkin embezzled public funds. Calls Hastings paid agent. Walker asks federal aid, denounces bank squeeze on $90 million loan to city. Mob of 12,000 frees 3 prisoners in India. Wife of Gandhi is placed under arrest. Senate vows Reconstruction Bill 63-8, but rejects Walker plea for city aid. Mayor orders cut in municipal costs. Roosevelt asks 100% increase in tax on incomes and gasoline sales to meet large deficit faced by state. European problems dropped by Hoover. Home job put first. Nation's Democrats rally for victory. Roosevelt calls for new tax system. Hoover to run, spokesman announces. Dr. Butler assails stupid isolation and plea for league. Militant drive ordered to obtain league adherence. China will demand sanctions by league against Japanese. Japanese planning a free Manchuria dominated by Tokyo. City gets $12.5 million loan for 11 days at 6%. Further bank aid likely. Bankers agree to lend city $350 million on Walker pledge of strict economy. Albany quickly passes charter relief. Germans seek truce at home for a year without elections. Hoover Reconstruction Plan in effect. President signs the $2 billion bill. Dawes to begin operations next week. Governor Roosevelt enters race for presidency in North Dakota primary. Seabury finds city needs new rule with nonpartisan head to end graft. Will call upon legislature to act. Crisis near at Shanghai. Japanese may block port. Hoover studies situation. Shanghai certain Japan will strike. Tensions increase. Washington consults London on China. Tokyo's ultimatum ends at 5 a.m. today. Martial law in Shanghai foreign area. Japanese unable to occupy Shanghai despite 13-hour land and air attack. Stimson asked Tokyo to tell intention. Japanese force back at Shanghai. Great area in ruins. Hundreds slain. League acts. U.S. and Britain protest. Japanese seize part of foreign area in Shanghai and terrorize residents. China asks aid. Makes threats of war. A headline for every day of February 1932. Our Asiatic fleet, 1,600 men, sent to Shanghai. British also act. France and Italy back policy. Fighting is renewed in city. Battle near Harbin. 50,000 Chinese troops reach Shanghai. Japanese shell Nanking and land men. Britain joins U.S. in vigorous new note. Powers unite in peace move for China, but Tokyo objects to some proposals. Japanese planes again bomb Shanghai. Washington pledges 100% aid for safety of Shanghai settlement. Tokyo rejects peace. Battle goes on. Japanese land big guns, pound Taipei. Chinese planes engage foe near city. Tokyo sends infantry. Harbin taken. Japanese sailors failed to take Taipei. Tokyo is sending an army of 22,000. League observers report on Shanghai. Big guns reopen battle at Shanghai. Chinese mobilize 100 fighting planes. Japanese troops land at Wusong. Japanese advance on Wusong forts as Navy makes new attack at Taipei. Tokyo asks foreign rule in 5 cities. Japanese mass on Taipei, checked around Wusong. U.S. upholds 9-power pact. Chinese hold off enemy on 3 lines of attack. Inoue is slain in Tokyo. Action to aid bank credits and free billions in gold agreed on at White House. Congress gets credit expansion bill hailed as marking end of deflation. Stock prices up $3 billion here. Fighting in Shanghai threatens to widen, firing worst yet. 2,000 killed and wounded in fierce Wusong fight. Japanese land 10,000 men. Chinese mass big army at Shanghai as more Japanese troops are landed. League envoys report state of war. Shanghai expects battle on 2 fronts tomorrow. Powers try to prevent it. Tokyo says Stimson plan stern note. Warning by League invokes Article X. Japanese shell foe issue ultimatum. Chinese join peace move but say they won't yield unless Japanese retreat. China will reject Japanese demands. Troops, planes, guns ready for battle. Manchuria proclaims separate state. Japanese open Shanghai offensive. Each army claims their advantage after a day of stubborn fighting. Chinese cling to lines under terrific attack. Kangwon village changes hands 3 times. Japanese troops press assault behind tanks. Japanese push 2 miles past Kangwon, but the Chinese hold fast to village. Vote in Japan backs military party. Chinese drive foe back at Shanghai. Their guns set fires in foreign area. Japan to rush troop reinforcements. Japan speeds new army to Shanghai. Chinese drive enemy back 2 miles. Tokyo stands firm in reply to League. Stimson holds Pacific Treaty broken. Sees Tokyo voiding naval pact ratio. Japanese again try to take Kangwon. Chinese claim victory in night battle after hardest open fight at Shanghai. Tokyo contradicts Stimson on treaties. Chinese drive enemy out of Moishan, blocking move to battle up Kangwon. Japanese and raid down 3 planes. Japan lands fresh troops at Shanghai, again offers truce if Chinese retreat. Kangwon holds out as foe makes gain. Peace negotiations begun at Shanghai, prospects of accord fair, Tokyo says. Fighting goes on, new drive on Taipei. A headline for every day of March 1932. Demands of Japanese and Chinese bulk peace move at Geneva and Shanghai. New drive is opened against Chinese. Lindbergh baby kidnapped from home of parents on farm near Princeton. Taken from his crib, wide search on. Lindbergh hopeful is ready to ransom son. Nation's greatest hunt for kidnappers pushed. All clues thus far futile. Country is shocked. No trace of Lindbergh kidnappers. 300 questioned. Servants exonerated. Parents by radio ask return of boy. Friend of Lindbergh nurse is seized at Hartford where card was mailed. No reply to parents' appeal for son. Lindbergh's in message to abductors named 2 men to represent them in negotiations for return of baby. Lindberghs fail to reach kidnappers through underworld go-betweens. Sailor held in Jersey, chum questioned. 2 notes received from kidnappers, police to let Colonel Lindbergh negotiate directly for return of stolen child. Progress made in search for the Lindbergh baby, lawyer on secret mission. Lindbergh search pressed near home, Moore is confident. Hindenburg appeals for votes to avert victory of radicals. Police issue appeal to nation and search for Lindbergh baby. German election in doubt on eve of the vote today. Discontent aids radicals. Hindenburg barely fails of election, polls 7.333165 million more votes than Hitler. Considered certain to win in runoff. Eastman a suicide, note to his friends says work is done. Japan agrees to go from Shanghai area. Builder denounces Flynn for persecution and ruin. Bronx official on stand. Hitler centers raided on Civil War rumor. He admits order to 500,000 to fight Reds. Coalition routs leaders on tax bill, forcing wartime surtax on wealth. Vote 153 to 87. Sales levy in peril. Legal 4% beer proposed by Senate subcommittee as an economic measure. Tokyo War Office halts peace plans. Armies near clash. Shanghai foes sign truce agreement. De Valera notifies British Irish will end royal oath. Conflict may go to court. Britain warns Irish oath is mandatory. Negotiations hinted. House kills the sales tax 223 to 153. Nuisance levies now to be proposed. Coalition refuses to take leadership. Hoover demands budget be balanced as keystone of business recovery. Beer tax beaten. Oil tariff is voted. New coalition votes tariff on coal. Pleas by Crisp and other leaders halt drive to put more duties in tax bill. Seabury for reform of lower courts to rid them of politics and graft, ending mayor's right to name judges. Flies to Lindbergh to report contact with kidnappers. Garner gets pledged to balance budget. House votes $158,500,000 sales taxes. President warns he will veto bonus. Governor backs McQuaid, denouncing ouster move. Walker ready to testify. A headline for every day of April 1932. Angry Democrats block Seabury on Hastings writ. Flynn talks, avoids jail. House completes $1,032,400,000 tax bill. Surtax rates cut. Dividend levy voted. Treasury holds budget not balanced. 4-year federal war on Chicago gangs told by prosecutor. Hoover expected to ask a $300 million budget cut. Tax bill's foes mobilize. Mrs. Fosdick kills 2 children and self. Hoover outlines economy program, demands Congress set up joint board. Legion head backs president on bonus. Curtis says he met kidnapper's agent, told baby was well. Offer of favors for Willard data, a joke, Flynn says. Stimson is hopeful of new curb on war. Sales for Geneva. Lindbergh paid a ransom of $50,000, but kidnappers did not return child. He announces after waiting for days. Hindenburg wins election. Hitler is 6 million behind. Communists lose heavily. Liquidation, not shorts, upset stock, says Whitney. Promises list of bears. 11% salary cut is pushed in-house. Condon deals anew with kidnappers and reassures them. Smith's call for new war debt deal and veiled challenge to Roosevelt stirred Democrats at Jefferson fate. Massey tells jury of attack on wife, insanity is defense. Tammany controls state delegation, Smith and Davis on it, wet plank voted, Walker plans big beer parade May 14th. Massey takes blame in Hawaiian murder, can't recall firing. Soviet Army force doubled in Far East, Japanese disturbed. Whitney says short sales saved market last fall. Bears names kept secret. British budget omits debt payments, does not provide $171,500,000 due to U.S. Official Washington is not surprised. Senate's sharp economies worry Hoover and Mills. Loss of 6,000 jobs is seen. Tokyo War Minister defies the League. Inquiry denounced in ruling by court as defaming city. Experts say Massey did not lose sanity. Nazis lead in 4 states, win 162 seats in Prussia, liberals now in minority. Japan strengthens Manchurian army. Smith sweep in Bay State, his race with Roosevelt in Pennsylvania is close. Hoover asks nationwide tax reform, calls on governors to help recovery. Senate bill doubles income tax rate. Bomb at Shanghai wounds 5 high Japanese officials. Shirakawa and Ueda hit. Manslaughter is verdict for 4 in Massey trial. Jury asks for leniency. A headline for every day of May 1932. Honolulu divided by Massey verdict. Patrol guards city. Atom torn apart, yielding 60% more energy than used. Capone plea denied by Supreme Court. House votes economy bill with only $38,124,000 left of its $206 million savings. All-in Massey case freed after serving 1 hour. Will drop assault charge. Hoover sends Congress sharp message, saying its inaction disturbs the nation. Demands quick balancing of budget. French president dies of his wounds 14 hours after being shot by Russian. 2 other wounded defending him. French seek unity as nation mourns. Slayer called a red. Left triumphs in France. Tardieu coalition beaten. Ario likely successor. Young to be put up as a dark horse if Roosevelt fails. Hastings in rage menaces Seabury, causing uproar. Blackmailer, he shouts. $2.3 billion relief proposed to Senate in Democratic plan. Lindbergh baby found dead near home, murdered soon after the kidnapping 72 days ago and left lying in woods. Hunt for slayers of Lindbergh baby centers on gangsters who got ransom. President orders relentless search. Condon knows man he paid $50,000 in Lindbergh case. Planes hunt gang at sea. Militarists kill the premier in Tokyo. Bomb banks. Police in a day of terror. 17 in uniform, then surrender. Lindley expedition scales Mount McKinley. Descending, finds Carpe and Coven dead. Young scientists fell into a crevasse. Curtis admits he hoaxed Lindbergh and kidnap Hunt. Grew insane on the subject. Curtis is jailed for hoax. Peacock asked Lindbergh to post $25,000, police say. 12 bankers and industrialists to find ways to use Federal Reserve credit. Hoover approves new recovery move. Walker used $10,000 letter of credit bought by a bus man for trip to Europe. Got it day before signing franchise. Financier of Walker trip forced back from Europe. Mayor defies his accuser. Roosevelt demands national income be redistributed. Walker's income tax under inquiry. Sherwood collected fees for mayor. Got $51,960 for stocks worth $29,000. Europe will pay U.S. delayed annuities over 10-year period. Mayor on stand angrily defends Axe and accuses Seabury of persecution. Admits gift of $246,692 stock profit. Walker, concluding, derides charges. Denies links with Sherwood's $700,000. Rebukes the inquiry as destructive. Hoover condemns pork barrel relief. Calls on people to halt Garner plan. Senate votes $270 million new taxes. Sales tax quarrel grips the Senate. Hoover criticized. Seabury is ready to draft charges against Walker. Tax agreement is reported reached at parley of Hoover and Democrats. Balancing budget without sales levy. A headline for every day of June 1932. Senate passes $1,115 million tax bill. Balances budget after Hoover plea. $238 million economy measure reported. Dr. Walker admits doctors for city split fees with him. Banked $431,258. Mayor proved unfit, Seabury declares. Action to remove Walker is left to Governor Roosevelt. Seabury delays charges. Roosevelt to get Walker case at once. Seabury accepts challenge to act as governor scores political sniping. Socialist revolt in Chile upsets Montero regime. Davila in the new junta. Hoover and Finance Board propose loans for jobless and new aid for farmers. John D. Rockefeller Jr. out for repeal. Says dry law evils outweigh benefits. Urges wet planks in both platforms. Leaders of 2.5 million wets unite to fight for repeal. Spurred by Rockefeller. Seabury puts Walker data in the hands of Roosevelt. Gives no opinion on course. League body asks world to go back to gold standard. Morrow maid ends life, suspected in kidnapping. Friend with record seized. Prohibition battle lines are drawn by Republicans gathering at Chicago. Fight over the vice presidency looms. Republican repealists begin drive. New York's delegation takes lead. Hoover aides striving for control. Hoover men draft mild wet plank. Repeal fight on floor held certain. President likely to speak for Curtis. Hoover approves dry wet prohibition plank. His steamroller crushes threatened revolt. Convention receives keynote speech coolly. Convention adopts Hoover dry wet plank. Repealists wage a futile battle on floor. Uproar among delegates and in galleries. Hoover and Curtis named on first ballots. Dry wet plank is defended by Stimson. President takes up plans for campaign with aides. Economic issue put first. France sees Europe united against U.S. on war debt issue. Vannie Higgins dies, silent on slayers. Police mystified. Bora bolts Hoover on the wet plank. Holds Republicans pledged to repeal. Intends to carry issue to the people. Aereo rejects our plan for reductions of armies. Bars ending reparations. Hoover asks arms cut of 1/3 to save more than $10 billion. Italy accepts. Others to ask changes. Drive to abolish the 2/3 rule agreed by Roosevelt delegates. Smith admits governor has 570 votes. Roosevelt forces spurn compromise. Stake all on ending 2/3 rule. Smith and Glass lead fight to keep it. Smith quits race, frees delegates. Roosevelt gets 28 of Illinois' votes. Plank for submission of repeal ready. Roosevelt has a lead on rule change despite loss of 65 New York votes. Platform draft links debts and arms. Roosevelt orders 2/3 rule fight end, but backers in committee take issue to floor. Delegates wildly cheer Barclay's repeal plea. Roosevelt's forces seat Walsh, 626 to 528, forced to yield in 2/3 rule fight. Revolt by ultrawets holds up platform. Democrats pledge party to repeal of the dry law and quick modification to legalize beer. 934 3/4 to 213 3/4. Plank against war debt cancellation is submitted. A headline for every day of July 1932. First ballot, Roosevelt 666 1/4, Smith 201 3/4. Tammany poll on floor delays the vote. Roosevelt nominated on fourth ballot, Garner expected to be his running mate. Governor will fly to convention today. Roosevelt puts economic recovery first in his acceptance speech at convention. Garner for vice president by acclamation. Roosevelt plans aggressive campaign, carrying fight to Republican states. Wet victory in South spurs beer drive. Italy urges Europe to cancel war debt and end reparation. Hoover halts relief bill, holds a night conference to have measure changed. Hoover-Garner tilt halts relief bill. President opposes a broad loan basis. Speaker charges class legislation. British ask cut of third in size of ships and guns. Would limit air bombing. Lausanne Accord ends reparations. Berlin to issue $714 million in bonds. Washington open to debt overtures. Hoover would consider capacity to pay, but still opposes canceling war debts. Pact signed. Ratification waits on U.S. Ibanez vainly tries army coup in Chile, is again a refugee. Commons told we join in Lausanne debt talks. Reich disowns secret pact. No debt pledge given by Washington, no secrecy, MacDonald tells Commons. Stimson insists that we kept aloof. $5 million blaze sweeps Coney Island. 4 blocks on boardwalk destroyed. Huge crowds watch 6-hour battle. Hoover warns Europe on united front on debts, denying we were consulted. British insists pact will not affect U.S. Deadlock over the relief bill broken. Congress expected to adjourn today. Hoover cuts $15,000, Cabinet 15%. 72nd Congress adjourns near midnight. Relief and home loan bank bills pass. Senate in flurry over dry law repeal. 10,000 die in battles in 5 areas of China. 13 policemen suspended as Nassau inquiry bears third-degree brutality. Prussian dictator demanded by Nazis. Reich seizes Prussia, names dictator. Army ousts officials and rules Berlin. Papen acts under Hindenburg's orders. ICC approves 4 Eastern rail systems. New England consolidation deferred. Wabash Seaboard project is canceled. Walker calls on 147,000 city employees to give up months' pay, saving $26 million. Warns Albany will act if they don't. Employees of city accepting pay cut as necessity now. Italy now building warships in secret, says British expert. Court backs Papen on dictatorship. He will curb army. Reich ready to arm in defiance of treaty, says Schleicher, if others don't disarm. Warns city to slash budget, cut realty by $3 billion. Troop drives veterans from Capitol, fires camps there and at Anacostia. 1 killed, scores hurt in day of strife. Bonus stragglers mopped up by troops. 36 Reds seized. Grand jury inquiry on. Hoover denounces attempt at mob rule. Bonus army at Johnstown stirs protest by citizens. State Guard is refused. A headline for every day of August 1932. Right parties failed to carry Germany. Nazi seats doubled. 7 firemen killed, 31 injured by blast in Ritz Tower Hotel. Reich would seek private debts cut at World Parley. BEF begins disbanding. Going to homes by train, Hurley defends Hoover. Firemen reject pay cut by a vote of 4,900 to 278. Block Walker economy. Car of U.S. wins title at Olympics, sets world record. Cotton mills organizing to buy out Farm Board. Stocks rise 2 to 12 points. State asked to void Dr. Walker's license for splitting fees. Walker insists on right to cross-examine Seabury at the Roosevelt hearing. Reich will enforce curb on riots today. Nazi coup rumored. Hitler is expected to be chancellor in cabinet shakeup. Governor queries mayor on Sisto bonds, curbs oratory but allows witnesses. Walker pleads for his official life. Mayor denies Block's $246,000 was gift, contradicts Hastings bus testimony. Writ suit August 19th, won't halt Roosevelt. Hitler demands office as dictator. Hindenburg bars it. 15 injured as bomb explodes in movie. Walker must explain Sherwood deals. Governor refusing to drop charges. Mayor wants to subpoena 12 witnesses. Wish Sherwood were here, cries mayor, as governor presses his questioning. Unnamed person revealed as woman. Walker defends brother on split fees. Mayor will summon 12 witnesses today. Curtin, rebuked, calls governor biased. Mayor gets writ to bar removal action. Governor's powers to be argued today. Defense subpoenas Republican chiefs. Mollison flies Atlantic to St. John's, New Brunswick, keeping course despite winds and fog. Visits Montreal today, New York later. Roosevelt demands federal control of stock and commodity exchanges, denounces Hoover economic policies. Roosevelt panders appeal for funds to forgotten man. Witnesses defend mayor on taxi law, denying favoritism or monopoly plan. Won't block governor, court indicates. Block and Ungerleider deny asking or getting favors from the mayor. Roosevelt amazed by Sherwood deal. Governor bars Republicans from stand, holds testimony on plot irrelevant. Delaney testifies at first night session. Governor and Hilly clash on ethics of split fees. Walker backed on buses. Hoover sees major crisis overcome. Conference adopts revival program. Bank foreclosures on homes halted. Revival program begun with move to spread jobs. AF of L backs the drive. Ma Ferguson ahead in close Texas race. Court refuses to halt Walker hearing, upholds governor's power of removal, but calls procedure at trial unfair. Clouds threaten to mar the eclipse in wide area today. A headline for every day of September 1932. Millions here watch solar eclipse. Clouds mar spectacle for science at many points in totality belt. Walker resigns, denouncing the governor. Says he will run for the mayoralty again, appealing to fair judgment of the people. Fusion ticket against Walker likely. Tammany opens fight on governor. McKee takes office, pledges economy. Walker likely not to run as leaders seek to avoid open break with governor. 100,000 in military review cheered by Berlin throng. World War chiefs hailed. Paul Byrne a suicide. Wed Jean Harlow. McKee slashes own and aides pay, breaks up city printing monopoly. McCooey will work for Roosevelt. McKee is boomed to oppose Walker if latter runs in election on November 8th. Mayor to force cuts in fixed salaries. Raymond Robbins vanishes on his way to visit Hoover, threatened by liquor ring. 37 dead, 64 hurt in explosion on boat crowded with Rikers Island workers. 8 missing, many saved in East River. Walker sails for Italy on health trip of 20 days. Doubt on candidacy grows. Hutchinson's feared lost, plane with 8 down at sea. Aid goes from Greenland. McKee discharges Dwyer for Bronx market failure. Sues to bar fall election. Hoover asks new and stronger effort, laying Maine upset to the Depression. Democrats and Wets hail their victory. Roosevelt maps farm relief program, pledges tariff aid in Topeka speech. Hoover policies declared a failure. Hoover calls on nation to let no one go hungry or cold in coming winter. Papin overcoming hostility of states to reform of Reich. Roosevelt outlines 6-point rail plan. Would end competition, control buses, protect owners, and 1.7 million workers. Britain condemns German arms plea, backs French view. 3,000 besiege police after boy is slain in Jersey labor riot. Hoover wants the Reich to remain an arms parley, aloof on equity plea. Regulation by government of utilities and federal ownership of power sites urged by Roosevelt to protect public. France supports U.S. on Manchuria issue. Japan scents a deal. Roosevelt renews demand for repeal. Praises Smith amid cheers of 16,000. Tammany decides to fight for governor. Hindus sign accord. Gandhi gives assent. MacDonald approves pact among Hindus to end Gandhi's fast. De Valera declares League is on trial as Assembly opens. Hurricane kills 200 in Puerto Rico, hurts 1,000, causes huge property loss. Virgin Islands, Dominican Republic hit. Germany puts off debt payment to U.S. Tammany in a deal flouts Roosevelt, names Hofstadter for Supreme Court. Election of mayor November 8th is ordered. A headline for every day of October 1932. Berry strips McKee of budget powers. Roosevelt asks McCooey to aid laymen. Curry seeks deal with Walker threat. McKee now ready to run as independent, to carry budget route as people by radio. Roosevelt will make fight for laymen. League experts find Japan at fault, with treaties violated in Manchuria. Can't undo what's been done, Tokyo retorts. Layman's nomination appears certain as Roosevelt and Smith warn Curry, Republicans to name Donovan today. Colonel Layman nominated for governor. Curry routed as his allies desert him. Smith and Governor Roosevelt shake hands. McKee holds city convention illegal. Bronx to bolt if one is held tonight. Smith leads fight to block Walker. Surrogate O'Brien is nominated for mayor as Walker withdraws. Leaders ignore McKee. Court of Appeals orders election on November 8th. O'Brien pledges economy 5-cent fare. Pay cuts unlikely. McKee won't run. Republicans press Hunt for candidate. Republicans name L.H. Pounds for mayor. Candidate pledges fight for economy. Bench deal won't block tin box issue. Rebels now control most of Manchuria. Einstein will head school here, opening Scholastic Center. Coolidge says the nation needs Hoover. Recovering starting, he tells rally here. He assails Roosevelt's silence on bonus. Canada and Britain adjust tariff in favor of empire. Our exports will be cut. Roosevelt holds relief and obligation of nation for sound public works. Reich bars Geneva for 4 power talks on equality demand. Banks bar city loan pending economies. Hold Walker promises were not kept. Berry rebuffed November 1st pay is in peril. Hoover appeals to nation for neighborhood relief. Baker sees call to duty. Banks force $75 million city budget cut. 50-year subway financing is adopted. 5-cent fare sacrificed, McKee asserts. Roosevelt calls Donovan utility ally in 2 speeches for the state ticket. Layman here pledges liberal rule. Roosevelt opposes cash bonus now, urges beer tax to balance budget. Smith pledges loyalty in speech here. Threats to voters' jobs are charged by Roosevelt as Indianapolis hails him. Profound changes forecast in China. Hoover denounces Roosevelt program, scores Democrats as troublemakers, lists 10 signs of economic recovery. Mussolini appeals to U.S. to cut debts, will stay in league. Smith assails Hoover's broken pledges as Newark throng cheers him wildly. Governor in Atlanta talks of markets. Roosevelt likens the administration to the 4 horsemen. Japan tries to get Franco-Soviet help in Manchurian issue. Smith appeals for Roosevelt in Boston. Hoover off to Indiana on fighting trip. Hoover in direct attack on Roosevelt charges New Deal is now a shuffle. Scores remark on the Supreme Court. London fears riots of jobless today. Banks lend city $18.5 million, but demand real economy and a cut in all salaries. A headline for every day of November 1932. Roosevelt in Boston urges 5-day week. Federal aid for idle, saying Hoover failed to use own economic program. London police repel raid by jobless on Parliament in 3 hours of rioting. Jobless in retreat, mission a failure. London is relieved. Roosevelt denounces Hoover's tactics. Charge rule by guess and by gamble. Young condemns Republicans' threats. Hoover sees Wets misled by promises of Democrats. Defends Dawes bank loan. Hoover and Roosevelt end campaigns. Governor at Big Tammany rally here. President with a speech at St. Paul. Hitler's vote cut. Communists gain in Reich election. Hoover and Roosevelt make final pleas, with nation going to the polls today. Leaders of both parties claim victory. Roosevelt winner in landslide. Democrats control wet Congress. Lehman governor, O'Brien mayor. Roosevelt pledges recovery fight. Latest count assures him 42 states. Quick action on liquor is expected. 1,000 are dead in hurricane in Cuba. Town wiped out. Cane fields ruined. Heavy damage caused here by gale. Roosevelt is in bed with a slight cold. 3-day rest planned. Churchmen favor anti-war embargo. Hoover invites Roosevelt to confer with him on war debts, armaments, and economic parley. London and Paris debt revision notes given out. Roosevelt agrees to informal talk, puts debt responsibility on Hoover. Congress action by December 15th doubtful. Row over 50-year bonds imperils the new subway and city budget savings. President will not request Congress to spend war debt payments December 15th. Further study depends on Roosevelt. McKee gets strong backing. Tammany chiefs, alarmed by crusade, plan savings. Dry agents find Robbins in North Carolina hills. Called amnesia victim. Hoover plans $700 million cut in cost to balance budget without new taxes. Will seek the cooperation of Congress. Japan relies on Leighton on eve of League debate. Makes self-defense plea. Hoover for debt delay and settlement review if Roosevelt will agree. Hoover will oppose debt suspension but make move for possible revision. Roosevelt non-committal in parley. Roosevelt opposes debt commission as proposal in statement by Hoover, but would hear debtors separately. France will offer political reasons in another request for debt revision. Washington awaits new British rule. House vote on dry repeal agreed to by both parties. First business of session. Britain prepares human debt appeal to win our public opinion to delay. Business here opposes cancellation. Cold kills 2 here. Lodging houses full with mercury at 12. Persia cancels vast British oil concession. Tehran rejoices. London will fight decree. City balked in financing its December relief fund. New economies demanded. A headline for every day of December 1932. City asks governor for special session and move to slash salaries $20 million. Bankers see real economy underway. Britain warns December 15th payment imperils Lausanne, recovery, and trade with U.S. Plea moves Hoover, but not Congress. France holds president obligated to debt delay as sequel to moratorium. Democrats expect Soviet recognition. Lame duck Congress assembles today to axe on debts. Taxes and beer, farm aid. House to take up repeal as gavel falls. Dry repeal loses in House vote. Vote 272 to 144. Wets short 6 as 81 lame ducks say nay. Extra session of new Congress likely. Hoover message calls for sales tax, pay cuts, economy, and bank reform. House is working on 2.75% beer bill. $40 million loan averts default by city. New budget cut of $20 million pledged. Bankers dictate step. Curry backs it. Hoover offers Britain review of debts in a new note, but bars cancellation. Will accept any appropriate agency. Roosevelt asks sweeping city reforms and state control of defaulting towns in calling on legislature for pay cuts. Japan seeks a rise in her naval ratio and tonnage slash. British offer payment in gold on December 15th on condition it apply in New Deal on debts. Stimson promptly rejects terms as illegal. Ario lays debt snarl to Hoover, says France will pay with conditions. Britain to meet Stimson's objections. Ario falls, deputies vote default. Refusing payment without New Deal, Britain will pay, Belgium will not. Hoover for debt review with Britain, will ask Congress to join discussion. Confusion in France, Poland defaults. Hoover plans to seek Roosevelt's aid in arranging debt parley with Britain. London pays, Paris still seeks cabinet. McKee on city tour hails relief work. Senate votes bill to free Philippines at end of 12 years. 20,000 jobless get work cleaning snow from city's streets. Hoover asks Congress for debt board. He wants Roosevelt to help name it. Governor, silent, expected to refuse. Roosevelt bars bipartisan debt action, declines to cooperate in naming board, but won't hamper immediate review. House authorizes 3.2% beer, 230 to 165. All of Dry's amendments defeated. Senate gets bill today, fate in doubt. Hoover leaves war debts to Roosevelt. He suggests naming Young or House. Governor denies refusing cooperation. Beer by Christmas defeated as Senate demands more time. Boys lost in Creek, 12 rescuers hurt. Chinese and Jihol battle Japanese. New invasion scene. Million Soviet Reds face party ouster to cut inefficiency. Seabury offers draft of city charter to oust Tammany and to unify boards. Final report assails budget waste. Prince Mike sees near Fifth Avenue shop, trapped by his taste for costly tobacco. O'Brien plan merges city bureaus, rejects any basic charter change. $18 million pay cuts voted for January 15th. Mussolini will curb industrial output as a means for combating depression.